It's showtime, a-holes. Time to strap yourself in and brace yourself for Muscle Asylum TV and radio.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Muscle Asylum Radio and TV. Tony here is a special guest, Tony Doherty, godfather of bodybuilding, who's just taking his knee pads off. We've got Mick the Gift Galley and Jimmy Sadik, but we'll talk to Tony and yeah, how you going with everything, mate? So you've been obviously heavily affected by this lockdown and all of these restrictions around the country, and we thought we'd get you on and talk a little bit about how it's affected bodybuilding in Australia and moving forward, what you predict the rest of the year is going to look like. So we've got a lot of questions to ask. So
far away. Hello, everyone out there. Thanks for tuning in, and it's good to be back on one of these live feeds with the mates. It's good.
We'll just wish Gally a happy 50th birthday too. So he's spending it all alone overseas.
Happy birthday, Mick.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jimmy.
You don't look a day over 51. You're doing good, mate.
When Mark said you were turning 50, I couldn't believe it. I thought you were only like 48 or something.
46.
Exactly, he's 46.
What did say 52?
Exactly. What are you doing with the Botox anyway over there, with all this social distancing?
I put as much money as you want on, you'll never get anything.
I reckon
you know that.
Self-administering.
You know that. look at me creases everywhere.
Yeah, they're starting to come back. Tony, let's go back all the way to Columbus, Ohio. So we're not going to make mention to or the name of this virus because we'll get flagged on social media and on YouTube, but we'll talk about restrictions. So once restrictions came in place back when Columbus was happening, the Arnold and Columbus, you were obviously there to MC the show. Tell us a little bit about what was happening behind the scenes, how it was announced to everyone, and because it was basically the start of everything there.
Yeah, well, what happened, we were actually in because I took my dad and my son to Columbus because I've been telling for years about how big the expo is, and we should all get together, while we still can. So Dad and Jesse were with me, and we're in the lounge ready to get on the plane. And someone texted me and said, have you seen what's happening in Columbus? No, what's up? Anyway, I can't remember. Someone sent me the link, and it was actually the news, the local news, on where the mayor and the governor were announcing that the expo wouldn't be going ahead. And I'm literally about to get on a 14-hour flight to LA, and then 3-hour delay there, and then we flew to Chicago, and then it was going to take like 22 hours or something to get there. And I said to Dad and Jess, "You want to still go?" And they're like, "Yeah, what the hell? That would be something on." So we got on the plane after seeing the news that it had been cancelled. So I didn't know what part had been cancelled, what we're walking into basically. And at that stage, no one in Ohio had caught this disease at all. No one. So I think, geez, that's an overreaction, and it was sort of one of the first things, I think, in the US that was cancelled. And their point was there was going to be, 220,000 people go through in the 3 days. And I know you've been there, Gally, but have you guys been to Columbus before, to the Arnold?
Yeah, when I competed, 2011, I think it was, yeah.
Well, you know what it's like? It's like wall-to-wall people. You can't move. So there was no social distancing. In fact, that word wasn't even being used. So I got over there, and while I was flying, Bob Lorimer had managed to meet, with the officials, and they were trying to see what they could salvage, basically. And they said, well, in the end, it turned out that they could do the pre-judging on the pre-judging on the Friday, and all the amateurs had no audience whatsoever, which was really eerie. I walked into the amateurs, and there was no people there because I had, a badge that can get me in and out. So there was just the media and the judges. So it was really, really weird. There was like one lineup of bikini. I walked in, there was probably 30 on stage, and not one voice or anyone yelling out. And then I went back later on, and the bodybuilding was on, and there's no Lebs yelling, "Go flex the legs, mate! Don't forget to hit this." There was none of those Sydney voices in the crowd. There was nothing going on at all. So it was really eerie, And then so they said on the Friday night, you're allowed to open to the public because it was numbered seats. It was 7 till 9 on the, or 7 till 9:30 on the Friday night, and 7 till 10 on the Saturday night, and that was literally it. That's the only thing we were allowed to have people into. So I thought on the Saturday night when I was going to MC, the big finals, that it'd be just dead, and no one would be in Columbus, and people would probably just stay away. And man, it was packed. It was actually sold out. It was as big as any other year that I've worked there. So it was a really great atmosphere. Great result. It was probably the best lineup in years, if not one of the best lineups ever. With the depth of the guys in the show, and I had a lot of fun emceeing. Arnold was in fantastic form. He made a really cool speech, about his friend Franco passing away, and I actually got to meet Franco's wife and daughter backstage, which was super cool. And they had the most muscular trophy to present, and it was a really, really special night. And then one of my all-time favourites, Triple H, won the Lifetime Achievement Award, and I know him. I've known him forever. Like, he used to come out here and train when they were doing the wrestling tours. He's a really big deal now. He always remembers my name, and he also made a great speech when he got his Lifetime Achievement Award.
Why would he get a reward of the Lifetime Achievement? What association does he have with bodybuilding?
Well, he started out in bodybuilding. He was an NPC competitor.
Okay.
And when in his wrestling days, he always mentioned bodybuilding. He's the reason that some of the top bodybuilders have been, featured in WWE and that sort of thing. And he married Vince McMahon's daughter, Stephanie. So he runs the whole show.
Yeah.
So
Tony,
don't worry. Anything wrestling, I know all about it. I'm a massive freak when it comes to wrestling.
Then you should know that he started out as a bodybuilder. And so did John Cena.
Yeah.
John Cena, who I know really well, told me that he started out working at a Gold's Gym. And started, got a job after school. Even started lifting because he was doing it at high school, and became a bodybuilder and got into wrestling through that. So I think they just recognise it's not always just for bodybuilders. There's been media people, there's been people that have just given back or devoted their life to helping others and to sport. And Triple H has done a lot of stuff, man.
Do you remember, Tony, I think it was the 2004, remember the challenge round, 2004 or 2005?
Yeah.
Triple H was actually one of the guys that was on stage doing that, calling it out as well. Remember that?
There you go.
Yeah. So he's been involved in some way or another for quite some time. Yeah. So
he's quite often at the Arnold. It was 2 years ago. I was sitting down the front because I can, and Arnold hadn't got there, so I was sitting in those kind of couch seats down the front, and I heard this, "Hey, Tony!" And I turned around, and it was him sitting behind me. And I'm like, "Whoa, that's pretty cool." I'm just happy he knows my name.
Yeah,
so, and we talked for ages, and I remember way back when they were doing the wrestling tours, and the guys train in the city gym because it was close to the hotels. And I remember getting a message from the tour manager, goes, Triple H is obsessed in coming to this Brunswick gym, this mecca to train. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I've actually got pictures of him in Doherty's clothes and all that sort of stuff. And then what was extra cool, at the hotel, Stephanie, his wife, was with him, and I've never met her. And she goes, you know that guy from Australia? I said, yeah. She goes, our daughters still wear your shirts. They must have had them from 10 years ago when he did a tour there, and they still wear them around the house, and the ones with the knuckles. I'm like, oh, shit. That's about the coolest thing anyone ever said to me. Say hello to Vince. No. So it was really nice, and they're just good people, man. I was, kind of overwhelmed by it all. So the show went well. I had a lot of fun up there, told a couple of jokes, loosened everyone up. It was all right.
How do you think... obviously the announcement and everything that had to happen, do you think it could have been handled a little bit better? And I'm not saying necessarily from the NPC or the Arnold organisers' point of view, but say the government or whatever. Because,
absolutely. They ambushed them. They didn't even tell Jim and Bob that they were doing it. Like, I won't go into all the details because it's kind of in-house, but they'd organised a meeting with, let's say, the mayor's office, and they went along, including Jim, who's 93, I think, and Bob, and they went along, and there was no one there. And they were trying to get in touch with them, and someone said, hey, switch the TV on. And that's how they found out that the expo was cancelled, through a TV announcement. They didn't even go to them. So it was handled terribly. And Bob's, probably one of my best friends in the world. I've been travelling with him non-stop for 6 years. And I got there, I'm like, it's a credit to him how well he handled it. He was just driven all weekend, fighting, to try and save what he could from all the different events are on, because they have like 70 or 80 sports over there. So they managed to basically negotiate with the government to say that the sports could go ahead with no spectators. So the strongman went ahead, and the arm wrestling, the powerlifting, a whole lot of different things actually went ahead because all the athletes were already there. But the worst thing for Bob and Jim is that they'd started to set the expo up when the announcement was made. So people had started building their booths and they trucked all their stuff there. So really, we felt for all those companies because a lot of them, that's the money they make to get through to the Olympia. And then they do their sales at the Olympia to get through to the next Arnold. So it kind of broke that cycle. And, a lot of people were financially affected. But thank God the sport still went ahead because there was, probably 20,000 athletes in Columbus ready to compete when the announcements were made. And Bob managed to, I don't know how many of the 70 sports went ahead, but probably half of them still went ahead with no audience. So it was really weird. So I'd go in with my pass and I'd go into the big exhibition hall, and you guys have been there. So it's like, I guess they condensed the 3 big halls into one and just put all the sports in the middle of that with no companies and no booths and no sales, no nothing. And then the amateurs was on in the Hyatt ballroom where they do the pro show, and they just ran that with no people. And it was just handled terribly. But I think at that stage, the government knew this thing was going to get really bad, and they were trying to get in front of it. And it was only days later, because, of course, we're complaining, but this event went ahead, and that went on, and they've still got the basketball on, the March Madness is going ahead, and all these things that all end up being cancelled. Then they cancelled the ice hockey, and they cancelled the NFL, and they cancelled the basketball, and I thought, this shit's getting really serious. So,
were you concerned at that stage, Tony, with 2 weeks to go before the Aussie Arnolds? Were you actually really concerned then with what would happen back home, or
a little bit? I was sort of watching that space and talking to people here, and I thought, we'll just get by about a week because obviously, the world's getting crazy, and I didn't get by a week. I missed out by a week. Yeah, if it had been the week before, we would have got it done. And, the week before, Mark, we had our shows in Sydney and Melbourne, and, there was no restrictions at all at that stage. We could have packed auditoriums. And
it was a 500. Well, yeah, so when I remember watching the news, and that Gladys, or whatever her name is, the governor or whatever she is of New South Wales, made the announcement that they were going to cut down the amount of people that are allowed in an indoor arena to 500 starting on Monday, and our show was on the Sunday. So we scraped in, for New South Wales, we scraped in by a day.
Right, so as you know, Mark, I still didn't have an answer from my government in Victoria, from the Premier's Department or the Mayor or anyone about my Arnold show. And as Mark will attest, I kept giving him the microphone, saying, I've got to take this call, I've got to make this call. So I was negotiating with federal government, state government, and the CEO of the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre during the show in Sydney. So I actually found out, it was, I remember exactly, Mark, it was 4:10 when I got the final message, and the CEO of the Convention Centre had called me, and I handed the mic to Mark and went off, took the call, and he said, as of midnight tonight, Victoria's going into a state of emergency, and therefore your show won't be able to go ahead. And I had to wait for them to cancel, or I couldn't apply to get my money back because I'd spent over $500,000. I'd already paid them. And if I had have said, we're going to cancel, I couldn't apply. So which meant instead of me, and I'm happy to say it, so instead of me losing 1.2 million, I only lost 700 grand. And, so that was what I had to do while we were emceeing the show in Sydney on the Sunday. And then to contact everyone the next morning, make an announcement and say, we can't go ahead.
When did you make the call to cancel your pro show?
The Saturday morning, when I was doing the Melbourne show. So I had 77 athletes heading towards 19 different airports, and a couple of them already on their way here, unfortunately. And honestly, that was the thing that just about broke me, cancelling the pro show. It was going to be our 20th consecutive Australian pro. And I remember I was on the way to the morning of the Melbourne show. I couldn't sleep. I got up at 4 o'clock, I think, and I just wrote it. It just came out perfect. Well, I thought perfect, that we have to cancel the thing. And I contacted every single pro that I could and said, just turn around and go home. It's not worth it. And there was the weight that was on me was actually harder than announcing about the expo. And the end of the Melbourne show, I actually had a little kind of breakdown. I was trying to explain it to everyone. And oh man, it just knocked me around. It was really savage, because the weight of having all these people that have died and that have, left their families on their way to the airport. For example, Big Rami, the night before on the Thursday, he messaged me, he goes, "Brother, are we still good to go?" And I said, "Yep, we're good." And I'd been told that we were. And he said, because if I leave Kuwait, I'm going to go on the last flight, and they shut Kuwait. They shut for 30 days. So I'm going to go to Dubai, and I'll call you when I'm there, but I can't go back. I'm leaving my wife and kids for 30 days. He goes, "What do you think?" I go, "I've been told we're good to go." He's on the Thursday night. Then Friday night, when I found out that, all this shit was going to happen, that's why I got up at 4 a.m. and made the post to all the pros. And I called Rami. I said, "Brother, it's over." He goes, "Shit, man, I'm stuck in Dubai, but I'm okay. I did it for you. I did it for the fans. I kept my promise." And the weight of that, knowing shit, I've got 77 different people that are depending on me to do my job well, and I've really felt like I'd let everyone down. And
Yeah, but you're lucky.
That one for me was the worst bit. Then I think once I got that off my chest on the Saturday night, and I remember seeing you on the Sunday morning, "You look all right." And I go, "Yeah, yesterday was hell for me because the weight of having to make that decision, and someone had to make a call on it." And a couple of pros were getting kind of narky about it, going, "Oh, you could have told us sooner." And I'm like, "You all wanted me to fight for it. I couldn't have told you sooner." And a couple of guys said, "Oh, we'll still come. You can still do your show." And as it turned out, if they had have got there on the Thursday, which 60 of them would have, they would have gone into 2 weeks isolation and not done the show anyway. Shit. A couple of the physique guys from New York were getting all crazy about it. And I get it. I'm not mad at them or anything because they're athletes, man. I understand what they go through to come and support us. And being that it was our first year of physique and I'd built it up so much, I just felt like I'd really let the athletes down. Of course, the fans as well and the sponsors. But for me, the weight of the pro athletes, because that's been my life, And I didn't want to break. I didn't want to not do our Australian Pro. So we missed. Truth is, man, we missed out by a week, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. It's done, and we've just tried to do the right thing by everyone that we could, and but it was so that's how it unfolded. It was it's kind of it was brutal. Really, one of the hardest days I've ever had.
A lot of the things, one of the big things that a lot of people don't realise is when you start preparing for the Arnold, you run your Arnold show and then you start preparing for the next Arnold the day after the show. So this is 365 days worth of planning that's just basically blown out the door.
Yeah,
with something that's completely out of your control. And you did a lot of things leading up to the Arnold. So you were on top of a lot of things to make sure that people were going to be absolutely safe and hygienic throughout the entire thing. Like I can't remember how many masks or disinfectant and that you ordered. What was it again? What were the numbers?
I had a pallet of hand sanitizer, 5 litre bottles. Like 500 litres, I think, of hand sanitizer. Had 10,000 face masks on their way, another 10,000, on hold, ready to go. And we're going to have them available. Because I knew it was kind of going to get funky, but everyone's like, the show must go on. Okay, I'll find a way. So I worked out I was getting these stations made and signs so we'd have like hand sanitizer at every entrance and then every 20 metres through the whole exhibition centre that I'd have a 5 litre thing of pump sanitizer and face masks for anyone that wanted to wear them, because we didn't know how bad this thing was going to get. So I prepared everything, Mark. I kept staying one step ahead, thinking, okay, well, we'll only let this many people in and we'll only do this with thing. We'll have hand sanitizer, we'll have face masks. So, but as it was getting worse, I could sort of see this thing's not, I'm an incurable optimist. I'm like, we'll find a way. But at the same time, when we made the call, I knew we made the right call because people could have got sick, and our staff, our exhibitors, their staff, all the fans, all the people that travel, to the Arnold. And for a lot of people, it's the highlight of their whole year. We would have had 75,000 people over 3 days. I had to make a call on behalf of everyone. Well, the call was made for us, but I knew it was coming, and I'm, I hate saying, but I'm glad that we didn't go ahead that weekend. It had been a week before, maybe, but people's health has to come first. And I think as a society, this is what we've all had to do. And it sucked. So for me, okay, so I worked for 365 days straight, didn't get paid. I only get paid if I make money at the expo. So the staff all got paid. I didn't. And I lost kind of every... Hang on, let me get rid of this call. I lost, basically any... Oh, shit, I don't know how I'm going to even recover from it, because financially it is a disaster. And I thought, well, at least I've got the gym, so I've got some cash flow and everything else. So the Sunday night... So we'll get onto the amateur show because we managed to pull that off. But so I was driving home from that on the Sunday night, and I thought, oh well, at least we've got the gyms to get help us get through, and I can maybe move some money around or borrow against some equipment or do something. And I got home that night. I was having a couple of drinks and just thinking, oh well, we've got the amateur show done. We did all right. And then one of my mates texts me, goes, "You should put the news on." So I turned on the television, and there's the Prime Minister saying, 12 noon tomorrow, all the gyms closed. So this is a Sunday that the Arnold should have been on. I'll get the call that the gyms are closing. I said, no. I text my other managers and partners. I'm like, that's bullshit. I reckon we got till Wednesday. Got up Monday morning. It's like, no. We didn't have keys, so I had to go and get keys cut, because I always have this thing about throwing away the keys if you're going to be serious, So I threw away the keys here 21 years ago. So legit... on the Sunday night, I contacted a locksmith and go, I might need you tomorrow, bro. And as it turned out, we did. And the city ones we threw in the river. So, man, that was it. And then there's no income. So you've just got to do what you got to do and stay positive. So that's why I've started doing massive renovations and doing all the things that you don't get a chance to do. But, what we did do, Mark and guys, is we managed to find a way to do the amateur pro qualifier. And for me, I really needed a project that weekend, because the Arnold should have been on. And I knew if I was sitting around at home, I'd be going absolutely nuts and maybe depressed or something. So I thought, I'll find a way to do the amateurs. And then, of course, everything kept changing. So... I was booking venues in Sydney while we were on stage. I was messaging venue managers. I had 5 different council venues booked. And by the Tuesday, they'd all been closed, as in padlocked. Even the convention centre was locked for the first time in its history. Like, shit. Because I thought, maybe I can do it at the plenary. Maybe I can do it at the Kingston Arts. Maybe I can do it at some town hall. And they kept cancelling. So I thought, all right, I'm going to go undercover. I'm going to do it like an underground rave party. I'll get a warehouse and I'll set up a stage and find a way to do it. So, and I thought, then we can still at least sell a few tickets or let our VIP people in for free, whatever we can do. So, by the Thursday, so I found a warehouse. In fact, we were going to do one in a gym warehouse. I had plan A, B, C, D. So if you go down the alphabet, it was going to be in the car park on a Sunday in the back of a truck, because you could still have people outside. And I'd found an outdoor lighting rig. I was going to do it, so I became obsessed, and more obsessed. And anyway, we ended up looking at 3-4 warehouses, and we were looking at one. I should have done this on the computer because the phone keeps beeping. We were looking at one, actually, Nick from UPS in Durham at a warehouse where he kept all his equipment. We went out, we looked at that, and we're going to have to clean the whole thing. And he was really generous about it. But to build a stage in there and do what we wanted to do would have cost, tens of thousands, because I wasn't going to half do it. Then while we're there, I got a message from the guy that we hire all the giant screens for, around the Arnold, above the bodybuilding stage, the powerlifting stage, and the strongman. We have the big mega screens. So the guy that we rent them from, he said, I've been going to set up this kind of stage in my warehouse with these LED screens so my customers can see what we're going to do. So I'm on my way. So we got out there, and he'd already built this little stage, and he put 220 LED screens together. And then I went, okay, we're going to go off. Then this other guy messaged me and said, we can do special effects. Do you want flames and smoke? And I'm like, I'm going to make it right. Then I got this project on there. I'm like, I want people to walk in and go, what the fuck have you guys done? This is crazy. You're in a warehouse in an industrial estate, and it looks better than any theatre or any stage that anyone's ever seen. So we went all out, and I thought, we've lost that much money now. What's another 20 grand going to matter? So we went all out. And then the night before, they said, now they brought in this distancing rule where you need 4 square metres per person. So instead of being able to get 300 in there, I spaced the seats out so there was only 50 seats. Then I thought, okay, someone's going to get shitty that we've pulled this off and try and close it down. So instead of me, flouting the laws or working around it, I said, we're going to be really smart here. So I got all my staff together and said, this is how we're going to do it. So the warehouse was divided in 2. We put a curtain in, and I've still got the legislation printed that said if it's a separate thing, even if it's temporary separated, you can have, up to 100 people in each room. So that way the competitors were on one side and the audience and the stage was on the other side with a big black curtain in between. And they couldn't go in and out at all. So they had to go on stage, and then we cut the groups back so there was no more than 10 in a group. They go on stage, they had to go back into the warm-up area where we had another big screen set up so they could watch each other on stage. We had a whole gym set up with weights and all that kind of thing. The tanning, and Tegan with the makeup had all of her station. It was really spaced out because luckily we had this big warehouse. And then people could go out in the street to meet their family or whatever, but they couldn't go into the auditorium, which we call an auditorium, the other half of the warehouse. And then the people that went in, we just said to them at the start of the show, if you've watched your friend or whatever compete, your wife, girlfriend, because there's only 50 people, when you leave, can you cut your wristband off and then we can let someone else in? So we kind of rotated people all day, kept it cheap, and made it incredible. And then we did the live stream, which went really well. And, I was looking at pictures of the stage afterwards, with the flames in the background, and I was just really happy that we were able to not just pull off the show for the competitors and give out those 7 pro cards that we promised. And I knew how hard everyone had worked for them, but we'd done it within the law. We kept everyone safe, and then we made it fucking amazing, So for me, it was a little win for the weekend. And to everyone in Australian bodybuilding that said, keep going, man, you'll find a way. Thank you, because, it would have been way easier. I know when I talked to you about it, Mark, it would have been so easy not to do it.
Oh, you could have just pulled the pin straight away. And so many people in your position would have done it.
No one could have said anything. They would say, oh, well, that's the law. I said, no, we're going to find a way for the amateurs because, we'd had record numbers enter for the Arnold, and a lot of people were coming from Queensland City, and we're giving away the trips. I'm like, well, we'll just find a way to do it because we've got these 7 pro cards. So it was the last bodybuilding show anyone's going to see in the world for a while. Jim Mannion was so happy that we went ahead and did it, and welcomed the new pros. And I think the winners, even though the numbers dropped off, I think we had 200. We had 100 in the men's on the Saturday. Sorry, the women's on the Saturday and 100 in the men's on the Sunday. So probably 100 more didn't come for whatever reason. Some people just didn't feel safe. Some people just, I don't know, probably said, oh, I'm worried about getting sick, so they slug the face full of food and then use it for an excuse. And other people generally, couldn't make it. So for the ones that did, I still think we got the same 7 winners.
Yeah, I think that the people that won their pro cards were the ones that would have won it regardless of. Yeah,
that's what I was saying. Yeah. That. So I don't know what you guys thought, but I thought it was just a real win for the sport, and just some satisfaction from a shitty weekend.
What about Jake? How did getting Jake as a guest poser come about?
Well, when I left our show in Sydney, Mark, and I knew that the Arnold wasn't going to be on, he was actually the first pro that I called about. I knew the pros weren't going to be on, and I'd announced it because I knew it was his pro debut, and I'd seen pictures of how he was looking. So I called him in the Uber leaving our show in Sydney and said, hey, Jake, I know it's going to be really hard on you that I've cancelled the pro show. He said, well, you know what, I'm going to keep dieting anyway because I was going to do some photo shoots and I want to see, how my body responds to the drying out phase and all that. So I'm just going to treat it like it's on. I said, you're a champion, man. I said, what about if I find a way to do the amateur show, why don't you come and guest pose? He said, I'd love to. At that stage, I'm thinking we're going to be able to do it in a plenary or some big hall. I said, it'll be packed and we'll film it. I said, well, send it to everyone around the world and it'll be like your pro debut anyway. I'll make sure that, people at Pro League headquarters and NPC News Online, which we were filming for, will get to see. He goes, great. Then I don't know what happened there. We sort of disconnected. He thought I was going to call back and confirm. And I thought he was just doing it because he said yes. And how I work, I'm just like, I don't fuck around. So when I say we're doing it, we're doing it. And then I called him on it was a Friday or the Saturday. It must have been the Saturday. I go, hey, you still good to guest post tomorrow? He goes, you never got back to me. I said, well, I didn't know I had to, man. You said yes. I said, yeah. What? I've had a busy week, Jake. Like, it's been a little crazy trying to get this show together because this is a show that wasn't meant to happen. He's still in shape. He goes, yeah, but, I pigged out a bit and I've got family coming tomorrow. I said, listen, I really think you need to think about this. And he had a baby due that week as well. And I think, he'd kind of given up on the idea. I said, Jake, I think it's a really good idea for you to guest post. So I'm not going to announce it because I was about to announce it on Saturday on stage. I thought, I better just check with him. So lucky I did. Anyway, he said, I'm probably not going to do it, bro. So well, I won't announce it, but I won't not announce it. I'll just leave you sleep on it. And then some other people were messaging him, and I was talking to Gary Phillips. He goes, what? He goes, we just did this doco, and I'd really love him to guest post. I'll message him as well. So everyone, I said, message him, tell him he should do it, So my phone rang on the Sunday morning, and I'm on stage still. Jake, I'm like, you ripper. So while the comparisons, when I called him back, are we on? He goes, I'm on my way, bro. I go, wow. All right, you're tanned up, and you're gonna bring the house down, even though there was only 50 people there. But I think it was important for him, and I made sure we got some great shots, and we'll send them to everyone around the world. And I'm just so happy and proud of him that he did it. He found a way, I think his wife was saying, you're going to drive me crazy if you don't do it. Just the family will still be here when you get home. I said, literally, drive out here, pose, and go. And
how do you
that? Yeah.
Everyone, you know what pros should look like, etc. How do you look? How do you stack up? Where do you think he sits in the scheme of things?
I think he would have made a great pro debut. His condition was really, really freaky. I saw some pictures, and I'm not really one to judge off pictures, but coming into it, I thought, wow. And I think you and I were talking about Sydney Marks, and this guy's real deal. Like, it's the best he's ever looked by far, and he certainly stepped up to it. And, it's hard to say with the lineup that we had how he would have gone, because we've all been around this long enough to say you can look good on your own in pictures, you can look good guest posing, but when you stand next to Dexter Jackson and Rami and these guys that win shows, it's another world. But I don't think he would have done badly. I think he would have been in the first or second call out for sure. And I'm not going to go beyond that, because you really don't know until you stand next to these guys how you look. But Jimmy, he looked unbelievable. Like guest posing, man, he was a cut above certainly all the amateur guys that were going for their pro card. He was another level. Yeah. And I probably felt for him more than anyone with the whole experience, because, I'd invited him the whole year. He'd been training for this, and I said, you're going to make your pro debut here in Melbourne. And he's a Melbourne guy. So I really did feel for him. But I think in hindsight, he's probably glad that he guest posed. And I'm certainly really glad that he did. And if you're watching this, Jake, thank you, man. You stood up and he looked unbelievable.
It would have been perfect timing for him, because he literally had his baby the week after. So,
right?
yeah.
I jumped on the live stream on the was it the Sunday? So I got to watch the men, and then saw Jake as well. And I thought the improvements Jake made from when he got his pro card till now was crazy. So if he can do the same thing again in another year, he could be right up there. But Tony, that stage setup, I don't know if it was you I was talking to, Gretch or Chris. That was, like, honestly, that was probably the best I've seen in Australia. That was amazing.
It looked better. It looked better than the amateur stage at the Arnolds.
It dead set. If you could do that again, that's
Yeah, well, I think I've worked out a way at least to take it to our other venues, like at Kingston and those sort of places. The only thing the stage could have been a little bit higher, because I know with the live stream you can see all the people sitting. But we did that, honestly, in 72 hours, from nothing to that. And the guy, Arosh, that owned the place, credit to him and his team, and they worked, 6 in the morning till 10 at night, 3 days in a row. And I knew this guy was as crazy as me when I got out there, and he climbed onto the roof, because there were some skylights, and taped black gardening plastic over the skylights so it didn't affect our lighting. And we got a full lighting rig in, like you have in theatres. It wasn't just spotlights on a stand. We went all out. It was as good as you wouldn't know you're in a warehouse. So black curtaining all around it was just nuts. Yeah.
And the other thing too, that there was no mishaps at all. From what I saw on the Sunday, the music was fine. There was nothing actually went wrong. So Yeah, that was
Well,
very
apart from everything that went wrong, nothing went wrong.
yeah, okay.
But no, honestly, Mick, you guys know me and been to my shows for a long time. I'm a very obsessive sort of person. And I was meant to be doing the biggest Arnold in history, So I needed a project. So I went all in with this. I'm like, everyone goes, you're nuts. You don't need to do that. And when I brought in the flames and the smoke, people said, no, this is a little bit too much, the heat. I go, fuck off. Just leave me alone. And I actually had a remote thing that was setting off the smoke machines, the streams of smoke on my podium. No one knew, so I was just, And then when I saw the pictures, I was like, yeah, that was good, And we had a great weekend. I mean, it was weird, because the audience even had to work super hard to sound like there was people there. Because I'm like, listen, guys, you're part of a live stream. You're more important than ever, so we're going to create some atmosphere for every single competitor on my usual ship, but there was only 50 of them. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, Mick, and I'm glad you guys could all recognise, what a great setup it was, because it was probably more than anyone could have expected.
You couldn't tell that there was only 50 people in the crowd from the live stream. It just felt like there was a normal crowd watching, yeah. At any point during that week, Tony, did you have a moment where you said, fuck it, what am I doing? I need to pull a pin? Was there any time during that week where you just second-guessed yourself, even for a split second, like, what am I doing? I just need to stop. Nah, fuck it, I'm going to keep going.
When I kept getting knockbacks from venues and, the warehouse setups weren't going to work, I did stop and go, is this a sign? Like, are you just being an idiot trying to do this? And I just kept, sound cheesy, but I just kept thinking about the competitors that had trained for it, and I knew, how much work they'd put in, especially, not especially, but the bodybuilding guys. I'd send the standard from each of our state shows, Mark. And I knew we had some really good contenders. And I thought about, the girl that won the wellness pro card, Jacinda, who I gave a card wrongly last year, Nationals, and I wasn't meant to. It was my screw up. And she never complained once. When I gave her the bad news, she goes, oh, well, I'll just start training for the Arnold. I'll try and win it then. And I thought that was a great story. And I thought, imagine she put another 6 months of her life into that and then didn't get to compete. And then, all the bikini girls and all the other categories, not to single them out, but those two particularly, I thought, if there's any way in the world I can do this, I'm just going to do it. So, I had self-doubts. Of course, I have self-doubts every single day. But, you got to – I think people don't realise everyone has self-doubts. And when you see – successful people, and I've been around enough super successful people to see that have told me when I've interviewed them they've had self-doubts, but they just put them aside and get on with it anyway. I just had that mindset of nothing's going to stop this. And then, of course, every hour something else went against us. Oh, now you can't have any audience there. Now you can't have any people there. Now you can't have so many people backstage. It doesn't matter. We're going to find a way. So even with the athlete registration, we only let in so many at a time to give them their numbers. And then they had to go out a certain way so they didn't run into each other in the hallway. And we just kept redesigning and moving, the pieces around until we found a way. So, there was a few moments of self-doubt. Me just, just saying, are you nuts? What? Why? Why are you doing this? But that's the why. The why is because they deserved it.
The uncertainty would have been hard as well, wouldn't it? To hold, since from Columbus till that actual show, just not knowing.
That's where my self-doubt would have come from, 100%, that uncertainty. Yeah. Like, am I doing all of this work to know that tomorrow it could all be undone by something completely out of my... Yeah, that was the hardest bit, and the fact that we'd get around, like you said, Mark, when I left you in... before Sydney, sorry, and I was talking to you about, I think we're going to scrape by a week. So we went out and bought all the hand sanitizer and all the face masks, and I thought, that'll be enough. Then they changed the rules. And no matter how hard we worked to try and stay in front of it, and I think we were way in front of it. No matter how hard we worked to stay in front of it, they just kept changing. The goalposts kept moving. So in the end, it was inevitable that it couldn't go ahead as an expo, and you just have to accept there's nothing you can do about it. But it sucked. There's no doubt about it. It was a brutal kind of week, and that's why I got so much joy out of pulling off the Pro Qualifier for our amateur athletes around Australia, because we'd had 5 events, Mark, that we said to these guys, you can go and have a chance to get a pro card. And we had people coming from every state. And I'm like, if we can just salvage one thing from this weekend. And I knew we were scraping by the minute. Even
on the Saturday, I'm thinking, shit, I should have just done this all in one day. What if I wake up tomorrow and they say, no, you can't even have a warehouse with anyone in it? Because everything had changed so rapidly, I was actually worried that I'd screwed that up and we'd have the women's on the Saturday and then not be able to have the men's on the Sunday. But look, we scraped through literally by hours, because then the next day there's no way we could have even done that.
There were a lot of athletes that were a little bit, not disheartened, but they were a little bit annoyed more so that they weren't getting information given to them with notice. And then I think now in hindsight they can see that no one had any notice, and the reason why you didn't make any announcements prior to warning competitors is because A, you didn't know, and B, anything that anyone heard was just basically speculation until it was actually officially announced. So yeah
And I was trying, I was fighting for everyone, and if I had said anything too soon, would have meant we'd lost the fight. So I was a little bit coded, I think, with a few things. I said, like when we cancelled the Expo and the Pros, I said, but some events will be going ahead. Just watch this space. Check back tomorrow, So most of them got it, but a few didn't, and,
How good Christian look?
Oh, mate, he looked insane, because that lineup, I remember when I had the top three, it was Christian, Sadiq, and Michael Lucy. And I said, it's like we've got a little Josh, a little Ronnie, and a little Branch.
Yeah.
Because, Christian, he actually does look like Josh when he won his pro. He's got those quads and those big round delts, and that same sort of look. And then Sadiq, Mark, he improved from Sydney. He still hadn't quite worked his water out, but he was flexing his quads more, and he's listening, and he's like 24 or something, 23. Like, he's got so far to go. And then Halusi, wow. I mean, what more can he do? The guy is just a freak in a Branch Warren kind of way. He doesn't have the prettiest physique, but he's as hard and grainy as nails. He's brought up all of the body parts he needed to bring up. And, I don't think the guy's ever cheated on his diet in his life. He's not missed a single rep. This is the kind of mindset he's got. But Christian was an interesting one, because I've always thought he was a really good bodybuilder and he could make a good pro, but he hadn't quite nailed it. And he's been working with Scott Goebel the last couple of preps, and they just really, really worked their formula out. When I saw him in Melbourne on the Saturday, I thought he's the best winner I've seen around the country. And then after Sydney, Mark, I thought, having seen Sadiq win there, I thought Christian was still the best of the winners that I'd seen around the country, and then he improved again in that week. So, the detail in the guy's quads and hammies, and and the fact he's got big arms and big delts and a great waistline, he was unbeatable.
Yeah. That picture you posted on our Facebook page, Mark, of Christian
with his
the
quads,
other day.
yeah.
That blew me away. I really that photo of the quad, it was like a slightly smaller version of Paul DeMeo.
He's such a good human too. At the same time, he's a nice, polite guy. He's very humble. He doesn't speak shit about anyone. He's just a good guy.
He does stay low key, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fast forward to the rest of the year, and a lot of people have already asking what's the plan for the shows this year. So obviously we've got our state shows that are lined up and our nationals.
Well, and there's a couple of mid-year shows too that people are asking about, Mark. We're going to do in August with the Country Classic and with the all-female and physique with the pro cards. No one knows the answer.
Yeah. So what are the plans, say, up top with the Olympia? Like, a lot of people have been asking, is the Olympia even going ahead? Do you know, like, are pros still prepping for the Olympia? What's
full steam ahead, I think. Just think about this. We talk about the mindset of a champion. If you're a champion athlete and you're prepping for the Olympia, do you think this is going to stop you? You're going to find a way, man. You're going to think, you know what? Someone else is napping, or someone else is going to come out of shape. I'll train in my garage if I have to. It might only be a month or two, but this thing could go on. We just don't know. And I think I've had a lot of people messaging when I did my question the other day, my Instagram questions. I think half of them were, do you think the end of the year shows will go ahead? Well, I'm not Nostradamus. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters that we have to follow the rules that are in place, and nobody knows. I mean, Mark, and you got as gym owners, we don't know when the gyms are going to open, so we've got to take advantage of this time and do what we can, worry about what we can do, not what we can't do. And as far as I'm concerned, yes, the shows are going ahead. People are going to need shows by the end of the year. We need bodybuilding. The mid-year ones. Look, if gyms are locked down, for example, for 6 months, then there's probably not going to be any shows. But I don't think they will be. I think maybe 2 months of this will be enough. And I think the economy probably can't afford more than that. I think that Australia's probably been one of the countries that's handled it pretty well. You know, and a lot of people have been hanging shit on the Prime Minister and all the different premiers around the things, the Liberals, the Labours, and all this, trying to get all what a dickhead, or this guy doesn't speak well, or your premier talks shit. What I just think we've got to put ourselves in their shoes and go, they're not trying to make anyone sick. They're trying to do the very best job they can in circumstances that our world has never seen before.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
the US president or the English Prime Minister or the Australian Prime Minister or the Governor of New South Wales, man, those guys, imagine they wouldn't be sleeping, the weight that would be on them. I felt weighty cancelling an expo and a bodybuilding show, but imagine the weight on your shoulders being in charge of a country and trying to keep people money in their pockets and keep businesses alive. So I'm sure everyone's doing their best, and I think we all have to remain optimistic. So if you're a competitor thinking about doing the state shows and the national shows, don't use this as a weakness or as an excuse or as a way, to drop off your program. Just find a way. Because if I was 30 years younger, 20 years younger, and in shape, and I was an athlete, I'd find a way. I'd be doing like 1,000 push-ups a day and chin-ups on a tree if I had to. You'll find a way. You know, one of my mates the other day couldn't find any weights or dumbbells or anything. Went and got some steel tube and some PVC pipe and somehow stuck it together and put concrete in the end of the PVC and put caps on it and made dumbbells. Because he doesn't want to miss his workout.
Now, I think a lot of people, I think obviously as soon as gyms reopen, it's going to be, I think, a booming industry. I think so many more people there's more people training outside now, and I guarantee there's people that are training outside now that have never trained a day in their life, but I think they're recognising the importance of staying fit because so many people are missing the gym. So, if you're a competitor, now's an ideal time to just do what you can to just worry about your nutrition, in my opinion, and then train while you can. And as soon as gyms open, just bang, go in there and rebound as hard as you can. Yeah,
absolutely. And there is a lot of people out walking in the park, and it's the only time you're allowed out to exercise. And this is one thing the government's got right. I mean, people say, they got this wrong, they got that wrong. Well, they're allowing people to exercise every day. I think that's fantastic. Because imagine they said, okay, no one leave your house. The incidence of mental health and mental health and antisocial behaviour. I mean, people not going to the gym is hard enough. And we all talked about it offline, how hard it is. I know a lot of the members here, especially because we've been, like an institution, a 24-hour gym years before anyone had thought about that. We've had a lot of crazies and insomniacs and people with serious mental health problems. And this place is this little bit of string that holds their lives together. So I was really concerned about them. And at first, as a gym owner, I think we talked about it. Oh, shit, they're going to force us to shut the gyms. We should be allowed to let, for example, I had this scale worked out per square metre of how many people we could have in things. I was going to present it to the government. And, in working with all the venues and stuff, I've got some great government contacts at a federal and a state level. And I'd kind of worked out this program that I was going to put to them. So, well, for the sake of mental health and keeping people fit, can we, for example, in a building this big, have 25 people in, limit the workouts to 45 minutes, wipe the benches down before they leave, only let so many at a time. And I thought, you bastards, you've closed our gyms. You should let us have some input into that. But now I'm like, we're all in it together, man. Like, they have to shut everything down so this thing doesn't spread, and we have to do our bit. And as much as we'd love to have some members come in, and I'm sure it'd mean the world to them, they'll find a way. And, I was out walking this morning. I walked 7Ks this morning, and I saw probably half a dozen members from the gym. And one of the guys that's like not quite right, he was kind of robotic in his walk, but he was out there doing it. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. I thought, well, okay. I was worried about him. He's out walking. I'm sure, it's not ideal. And shit, closing the doors here, I've never closed. Like, no matter what, I don't close. And when this comes up, we're all in trouble here. And you, Mark, you've just built this terrific business. You've got this new culture in Chillara where people are coming to the gym and it's become part of their lives. I'm sure they're doing it hard. But what do you do?
I don't know. Yeah.
It's tough, isn't it? Because none of us have experienced anything like this before ever. Like, it's uncharted. None of us really have any idea. I mean, let's hope it's only 2 to 3 months. Like, I agree with you, Tony. The economy, it doesn't matter whether we're here in the States or back in Australia.
I don't see it lasting longer than 2 months. I've got a interview for the podcast with the CEO of Fitness Australia on Wednesday, and what they've been told is it'll be a rollout system. So when gyms do reopen, there will still be certain restrictions in place. So all those ideas that you came up with, Tony, they'll probably come into play
for a certain period of time.
For a certain period of time, yeah. Well, but it's like I don't know. They're talking about different things here, and it's just they're very like you said that they don't know what's going on.
I've heard the same sort of things through government, and I don't want to jump the gun, but let's just see how that plays out. And in the meantime, just do what we can do.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, Tony. Well, thank you very much for coming on. It was a very good chat, and you gave us all a little bit of insight to what happens behind the scenes and what happened behind the scenes leading up to Columbus and obviously the Arnold in Australia. And I think the short answer to what's happening the rest of the year is everything's on and just get ready for it. And then if anything changes, then everyone will find out together, I guess. But there's no point not preparing for something that could be a possibility of a big chance of happening. So just, keep doing what you're doing,
Well, listen, you guys, go on. Mick, were you going to say something?
No, I thought Richie was...
I was just going to say, all right, well, listen, thanks for having me on, and to everyone out there watching, stay safe, stay as fit as you can, and just, connect with people, stay positive, and see you on the other side.
So easy. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you later.
All right, bye.